Good afternoon. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show, our World Cup daily show here, looking back at last night's sporting action from the FIFA World Cup and looking ahead to tonight's games. I'm Chris Belt. I'd like to say I'm joined, as ever, by Gareth Walker. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Enjoyed last night's games. How are you?
Yeah, all good as well. As I just move out some clutter from in the background shots of what I should have done before we went live, really. Yeah, all good. Some interesting games last night, and not a win between them, surprisingly. I think most of all, we're gonna have to start in. We're going kind of group order. We have to start with what I think is probably going to be the most celebrated goalless draw in World Cup history.
Absolutely. It's the biggest shock of the tournament so far. I know there was a little shock the other day with another draw, but that one definitely. Cape Verde, the lowest ranked team in the tournament. Spain, fancied by many to go all the way. They're my tip with France. And wow, what a performance from them, really. I was commenting in the group chat that the manager goes by a single name. I can't remember what it is now. It's a bit like Batista, the old wrestler.
Babista.
Babista, that's it. And they put in a proper grafty wrestling type performance. Really, they really withheld Spain throughout the whole game, pretty much. I thought they defended superbly. I thought that the keeper, 40-year-old goalkeeper, was absolutely fantastic. It's the first 0-0 draw of the tournament so far, I believe, and they thoroughly deserved it. Really, we were talking, weren't we, before we went on air, how Spain are stacked with quality from back to front, but possibly lack a striker or a top-class striker in the form of a Villa or a Torres in his pomp from years ago. But make no mistake about it, Cape Verde thoroughly deserved that point and almost won it at the end, didn't they, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. That header from the corner that Cape Verde got in like the 90th minute, I think everyone around the world was willing for that to go in. And when he comes to it, he makes it well enough. He gets a clean, unchallenged contact, and you look at him like, anywhere else, anywhere but straight at the goalkeeper, and you're going to cause him problems there and probably get yourself an iconic World Cup goal. But it wasn't to be. And in the end, as you say, for them to hold out and defensively, they were so well organised. Like I know Spain did get a few shots, but a lot of them were from kind of edge of the box sort of range. Obviously, the goalkeeper, Vizinha, who I think has now gained, I think it's something like 5 million new followers on Instagram in the space of 24 hours. He made some blinding saves at the age of 40 years old. The centre-half pairing of Borges and the lad that I mentioned from Shamrock Rovers yesterday as well, Rodrigo Lopez, were superb. They just, to a man, were an absolute credit to the side. And the planning tactically, the structure that they had, completely different, obviously, to what we saw from Curacao when they were faced with playing one of the giants. Curacao possibly wanted to take the game to Germany a little bit more than Cape Verde did to Spain.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's got them an absolutely tremendous result at the start of the group stages for Cape Verde.
Yeah, I mean, no one would have expected it, would they, mate? Let's be honest.
No.
Everyone thought Spain would just rock up, put 5 or 6 past them, a bit like Germans did, like you say. It felt to me, watching it, a little bit like, I don't know what you thought, but a bit like an early round FA Cup game when the sort of non-league minnows are defending for their lives. And it was a bit like that in the respect that, I mean, Spain had the chances. They had shots on goal, but the keeper just stood up to everything and batted everything away. And like you say, the centre-halves as well. The lad from Shamrock Rovers, fantastic. And you just can't take anything away from them. The way they defended, they thoroughly deserved to come away with a point.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was one of those results. You looked at social media afterwards, and people that, even people you know that aren't necessarily football fans, were out commenting last night on what a great result that was for Cape Verde. I just couldn't believe the stat that the islands combined of Cape Verde make up a population of around 500,000, a population less than the size of Sheffield.
Is that what it is?
That's the one that was used in commentary during the game. So, smaller population than Sheffield.
We were having a conversation, weren't we, in the group chat yesterday? And I know he was saying it tongue in cheek, but But Dave was saying that he could have played for San Marino. He was good enough to play for San Marino. But I think when performances like that come out, it just shows you that there is still a big jump between that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's one of those. Like, for years, I thought when I was in my late teens and early 20s, if I just moved to the Faroe Islands or just moved to some faraway land, that I'll be good enough to play international football after 5 years of living there, only to then realise that is absolute nonsense and what the hell, I've been drinking far too much.
Yeah, it's like when you play, you think you're like, you think you're indestructible when you're drunk. It's a little bit like that, isn't it?
And that's just in my own head as well. After a few pints, like, I wonder if I could play for the Vatican City, but no.
Well, there was a team. It's going back a few years, mate. But there's like the smallest nation in the world or something. We're called Sealand, and they played on like an oil rig or something, and they basically got an international team going. But I don't know how they did it. But they got people like Ralph Little playing for them. I don't know how they declared nationality for this Sealand, but Google it. It's worth having a look. There was a documentary on it about it. Yeah,
I was going to say I'll have to give that a damn Google. It's like, do you remember when Yorkshire had an international team that wasn't recognised by? It wasn't. It was only a few years ago, but basically it's the same group. I can't remember what they're called, but there's basically like an independent UEFA or an independent FIFA or whatever for nations that aren't big enough in any way, shape, or form to qualify. So I think possibly Isle of Man, Greenland. There's a couple of others I think that might be in this kind of union. And Yorkshire are playing like a friendly against somebody else, some actual country, but so small that it's not recognised by FIFA. And in Yorkshire had a team that was put together. I think it was all like lower league or non-league players that made it up. But yeah,
don't forget if they were actually pro. If they were actually pro players that played, but they were no lower league and non-league players with it.
I think they were all like non-league players, to be fair, even possibly lower than that. But yeah, it was just quite interesting. Again, you have to give that one a Google. Don't forget, you can get your comments into us. Let us know your thoughts and views on these World Cup games and the games ahead for us tonight. Michael says afternoon, Chris and Gareth. Afternoon to you, Michael. Hi, thanks for joining us on the stream. Let's move on then from that remarkable result for Cape Verde last night to the other game in Group H. There was Saudi Arabia and Uruguay. So this was the 11 o'clock kickoff, I think it was last night.
Yeah, it was.
I just about managed to stay up to get through the full game. And again, a draw between the pair of them, a 1-1 draw. How did you see this one?
Well, I expected more from Uruguay in the first half. I was disappointed with them in the first half. They started with the territory and the possession and probably had half chances without doing too much. And then just before Saudi Arabia scored, I think you put it in the group chat, it was coming, was that goal. They had a little bit of, they sort of reversed the territory in the possession. They had a little bit of pressure on the Uruguay goal. They put some really good set pieces and crosses into the box. And finally, they made one count, didn't they? And the lad who scored, Al-Amri, just followed in the keeper's serve. The keeper palms it out into a danger area, really, and he's the quickest to react to scores. But at that time, I felt that they kind of deserved it just for the sort of 5 or 10 minutes that had been building up to it. And like I said, they put some good balls into the box. Second half, I thought Uruguay reacted, looked more like the Uruguay that we'd expect, dominated for large periods. They seemed to get Valverde into the game more, who I really rate. I think he's their star player. He was out on the right-hand side for large parts. They struggled to get him into the game in the first half, got him in more in the second half. Obviously, he plays for Real Madrid, and I think Jay put in the group chat that they needed to move the ball quicker as well, and they started to do that. And then when they got the equaliser with 10 minutes to go, it was a little bit of a siege, wasn't it? Sort of the last 10 minutes. I thought that they might have nicked it at the end and won 2-1, but they didn't. Saudi Arabia held firm. Keeper made a couple of saves, defended for their lives a little bit like Cape Verde did, and managed to head everything away and come away with a point. Yeah,
to be fair, I think Uruguay's goal in the end ended up not exactly similar, but similar circumstances to the Saudi Arabia goal, to be fair. It was a shot that came in that was parried away, and Araujo just reacted the quickest. I mean, first, I said in our group chat last night, and I know Jay, one of our resident Leeds fans on the channel, was up watching it as well, and because of the resident Leeds fan, he worships the ground that Bielsa walks on. I thought Uruguay first half were poor.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite decide whether it was just Uruguay being a bit poor or Saudi Arabia just looking a lot more up for it than the Uruguayans did. And I thought that I know they've been critical of the pundits at halftime on Uruguay's take, but I think it was justified myself. I think they were far worse than I expected. Second half was a lot more of what I expected from this great Bielsa's Uruguay side.
What did they say at half time, Chris? Because it was night time, so at half time I went to clean my teeth and get ready for bed, and then watch the second half. What were they highly critical of Uruguay?
They were just. I didn't think they were. Surprise, Leeds fans overreact. I thought they were they were justified. Just basically saying on what I said about how off the ball they are, how Saudi Arabia seemed more at it. And yeah, I don't think there was anything in it. It's just Leeds fans being sensitive sods at times, isn't it? That's all it is with Jay and Brownie. And yeah, I think a draw in the end, probably a fair result. To be fair to Uruguay, I thought they might have nicked it later on, actually, the way they kept pushing after they got that equalising goal. But I think overall, a draw is a fair result. And it certainly leaves the group interestingly open with a point apiece for all four sides after that first game.
Yeah, well, they'll all fancy the chances of going through, won't they? I know you said, is this the group with Cape Verde and Spain in it as well?
Yes.
I don't want to make the faux pas that I made yesterday, but yeah, I mean, Cape Verde are still going to be the least likely to go through, you would expect, but they're on level points with Uruguay, and they've already got the Spain game out of the way. And like we were saying yesterday, mate, with three teams that can go through, you could possibly go through with one win. So if they can, Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde will both be still fancying the chances of making the next stage after the group stages. Uruguay and Spain obviously still to play each other. That'll be a taster game to look forward to, especially if Uruguay can play how they did in the second half. But I agree with you, mate. Especially like I said, the way that they were putting balls into the box at various points, specifically before they scored. I thought they surprised me with that quality, really, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Excuse me. One or two comments. Machina Joe, he's back. He joined us yesterday. He says, "Hello, boys. It was extremely satisfying seeing Spain like a toothless tiger. I hope Senegal beats former colonial master France just like in 2002 and died to score." He's an Everton fan, though, as well. Michael making the point, the World Cup was spoiled by the early morning kickoffs. I mean, we've had it look good in the UK in the last few years, I think, when it comes to the kickoffs, to be fair. And it's been, 24 years since Korea and Japan, which was the last awkward timing one, I think, for us.
Yeah.
So I think we've been doing all right. We've done well for him. And again, Joe makes the point, the games are at very good times for him as he lives in Sydney. So the games are spot on for him. And finally, Michael, he says they should have been a Winter World Cup rather than bringing hydration breaks due to heat and humidity. It's a weird one because we had, obviously, the last World Cup was the Winter World Cup. We had hydration breaks in that, though, because you had a Winter World Cup in one of the hottest places on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the hydration break thing yesterday, didn't we, with obviously the Germany game and how it sort of stalled Carriacou's sort of pressure that they were having in the game. We discussed the whole adverts thing. And I think it is it feels like it's been brought in for the wrong reason. Doesn't feel like we need it in every game. Like we said, I think some of the games are 19 degrees. I
said this to you yesterday, didn't I? It should be done on a game-by-game basis because when you've got games that are in air-conditioned stadiums with closed roofs to be kept at a nice 19, 20 degrees sort of thing, perfectly manageable, no need for hydration break. You should just let it crack on. But I did see some footage on X last night, I think it was, early this morning. Basically, you can see an official on the near touchline being told by a TV producer when he can restart the game because they were waiting for the advert break to end, which you see that in the UK game, but obviously only at the start of a game and at start of a second half. You don't see that mid-game usually.
Yeah, it's very telling, isn't it? That kind of exposes what we've been thinking. Like I said yesterday, they wanted to bring them in. They wanted to change the games to quarters in '94 and things pushed back, but it feels like they've got their way. I mean, and just on the point of the kickoff times as well, I understand Michael's frustration. Obviously, it's good when we can watch all the games and you don't have to stay up into the middle of the night. But you kind of feel like it comes down to FIFA trying to expand the game around the world, doesn't it? And trying to cater for everybody. And so this is why World Cups have to be spread around and go to different continents. And obviously the kickoff times have to be for everybody as well and try and get a fair share. And yeah, it's frustrating. Like you said, Chris, we've had it good, haven't we, in previous World Cups and in recent years, even throughout history, really, apart from the South Korea one in 2002. I was at uni then, and I remember getting up early in the morning to go and watch the games. But yeah, something we just have to put up with. Fortunately, we've managed to watch tea time one tonight, which is a bit disappointing, but not been too bad. But I do understand the frustration.
I can't remember what the time difference was for Brazil. Was that 2014?
Oh, I can't remember that. Yeah, it was 2014. Yeah,
that's 2014 World Cup. I can't remember it being particularly awkward then, and you kind of look at it logically and think surely that'd be quite a hefty one for us in the UK, but it can't have been that bad, otherwise I remembered it. Let's go on then, looking back at last night's games into Group J. I think it is G. H, G. I've gone the wrong way with these. So into Group G, yes, I've done H before G. Oh, well, my fault. Belgium and Egypt, the 8 o'clock game last night. Belgium, I said to you yesterday, I thought they might look a little bit better for not having that golden generation tag firmly stamped on the back. They didn't necessarily play like that, though, on the whole. I thought Egypt's, again, a bit of a game of two halves. Egypt the better in the first half, Belgium probably changed it in the second.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. It was a little bit like Uruguay in the first half, Belgium. I was disappointed with them. I thought they had more to offer. They didn't really. I thought even despite what we said yesterday and what I thought about the golden generation, you were saying, I think your point was good actually about having that label off the back. I thought they'd be too much for Egypt. I thought Egypt would be too heavily reliant on Salah. It was interesting that Egypt put Salah in the 10, which I've never seen him play before. Put him in the 10 position, and Egypt in the first half were more than a match for Belgium. Like you said, Belgium came back in the second half in a similar vein to how Uruguay did, really. And a draw was probably fair overall. Obviously, we had Lukaku coming on, and I know the goal's not gone down as his, but he was on the field for about 5 seconds and had a big part in the equalising goal. Yeah, I think he's their record goal scorer, which is some feat for the lad. But yeah, I think a draw was probably fair. And like I say, Belgium, similar to Uruguay, not particularly impressive in the first half, but better in the second and showed more of the quality then. And Egypt have come away with a point.
Yeah, as you say, Lukaku come for De Ketelaere, and yeah, I think he was about 15 seconds or something when that ball was then played in, and he's the presence there that forces the mistake from Mohamed Hane to get that crucial touch to take it into the back of the net. And again, seemed late on in that game that they possibly could have nicked it with Belgium, but not to be on the day. Again, a 1-1 draw that leads us into a 2-2 draw between Iran and New Zealand. This was our 2 a.m. game that I'll be honest, I didn't stay up for last night. Watched the highlights this morning. Also looked at my phone this morning when I woke up, and in typical fashion thought you go through a 0-0 on 2 1-0s, and then you end up going to bed for the 2-2 game. That's probably the best game of the night. And a 2-2 draw between Iran and New Zealand.
Yeah, like you, mate, I was asleep when this one was happening, but managed to watch the highlights this morning. I know what you're saying, obviously, like it was a shame to miss the 2-2, and initially you'd say, oh, we got the 0-0 game, but I'm glad I watched that 0-0 game because obviously it was
a good one.
Verdi fighting for the lives. I thought that from what it showed on the highlights, I mean, there are only 8-minute highlights on the BBC website, but both teams were a threat at different times during the game. New Zealand, what's the lad called? Is it Dest? I can't read his name there, Chris, but the lad who scored the 2 goals.
Elijah Just. He plays for Motherwell in the SPL.
Yeah, I was going to say about that, playing in the SPL for Motherwell. Looks a threat, to be honest. Scored 2 decent goals. Chris Wood, we know, is a focal point for them up front and got the 2 assists. It's good to see him making the World Cup, actually, because he had an injury-ravaged season at Nottingham Forest, so it's good that he's managed to make it. But I can't really say more than that, mate, having only seen the highlights. Like I said, I think a draw probably looked just about fair, and I thought that the lad from Motherwell with the 2 goals and Chris Wood were the main threats for New Zealand and deservedly got the assists and the goals.
Yeah, I think it was the second goal where Chris Wood holds it up superbly and just plays it just into his path, and he finishes it absolutely superbly.
And that's what Chris Wood's game is,
really good.
That's what his game is. It's all about holding the ball up, having runners coming off him. He's a good finisher himself, but he's very, very good at holding the ball up and bringing runners into play.
Yeah, absolutely. He was superb, was Chris Wood in that performance, along with Elijah Just. So, as I say, draws all round then when it comes to the tables. I mean, you look at this group in particular for Iran and New Zealand, along with Belgium and Egypt. It's very wide open. You could see Spain and Uruguay taking charge probably of Group H. But as for Group G, for this one, it still seems very, very wide open, actually. All it'll take is what might be seen as an unfancied result from New Zealand, perhaps to pull something out of the bag, and it blows this one wide open.
Yeah, it's a similar situation to what I was saying about the other group. I know, like you say, you'd expect Spain and Uruguay to take control. Maybe not the same in this group, but the fact that you've started with 2 draws means that the smaller teams or the less expected teams will still fancy the chances going into the second and third games. If any of those teams, obviously, we know that Egypt have got their draw out of the way with Belgium, but Iran and New Zealand will fancy the chances going up against Egypt, I think, after that 2-2 draw. Obviously, they know that against Belgium it's going to be tough, but like we say, 1 win and you can possibly get through. And the fact that we've started with draws leaves the group wide open.
Absolutely, yeah. Machine Joe, football very low in the pecking order in New Zealand, understandably so, to be fair. It's a rugby country, never qualified until Australia left the Oceania region for the Asian Confederation in 2006. And I think since then, New Zealand have been a couple of tournaments at least. I think 2010, I think, might have been their first appearance. Yeah. I remember them going when I was at university there in 2010, just to make you feel old, mate. Let's look ahead then to tonight's games that we get. Both groups are in order, time-wise as well. We go from Group I into Group J. I have to double check. Oh, honestly, I'm getting lost with letters with all these groups in this tournament. Group I then, France versus Senegal is at 8 o'clock. That looks set to be a very interesting game. And actually, Iraq versus Norway. I know it's certainly Jay's dark horses for the tournament. I'm not sure just how dark a horse you can be, though, when you're led by Erling Haaland, the world's most famous striker at the moment. But hey-ho. It should be two interesting games, and one where what are we going to see from Iraq is the big question as well. Are they going to be a Curacao or are they going to be a Cape Verde?
We just don't know, do we? Are they going to be? They could be either. They could be absolutely stellar and defend for their lives like Curacao did, or they could be absolutely terrible and Norway could blow them away, like you said, with Haaland up front. I think the thing with Norway is, like we were saying, obviously they've not qualified for a World Cup for a while, so I think that's why Jay's possibly thinking they might be a dark horse. They do have quality throughout the team, as we know, led by the main man up front. So, yeah, I get it why people might say they're a dark horse, but I honestly don't know what to expect from Iraq. France and Senegal is a throwback to the 2002 game that we talked about a little bit about yesterday with obviously El Hadji Diouf having a stormer and Liverpool signing him off the back of it. France, I said as well again yesterday that I fancy them along with Spain they're my 2 tips, both in the same half of the draw. I think I looked at the how it maps out. I think they could meet in the semis, I think the win. I do think that one of those 2 will win the game or win the tournament. Surprisingly, or disappointingly, like I said, there's no tea time kickoff today, so we get 2 in the middle of the night, which is a little bit frustrating. But I'm looking forward to France Senegal at 8. I think the African teams have been getting better and better. We saw the Ivory Coast briefly yesterday, and they were on Sunday, and they were very good. So I'm expecting similar from Senegal.
Yeah,
they were very good against England, weren't they? In a friendly, not too long ago. They played really, really well. They beat Thomas Tuchel's side and looked decent. So I think they can give France a game, mate.
Yeah, the beat is at the City Ground, I think it was, for that kind of friendly game, and you're right, they did look good. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a score draw in that one, if I'm honest, between France and Senegal. What I hope we don't get is France just steamrolling them and being at the very best. But I think Senegal could put up a good fight there. As for Norway, I think. It's one of those things. To face the other nations that Iraq are facing, qualifying to get to the competition is one thing, but there is nobody. I will be fairly certain, I put fairly reasonable money that there is nobody like Erling Haaland in the qualifying ranks that Iraq have had to get through to come up against. So it could be one of those days. But you see with Haaland, he's either quiet and just comes up out of the blue with a goal, or he's just the focal point of everything. And to be fair to Norway, they've got a lot of bloody good players as well. It's not all about Haaland, even though it slightly is in the build up to this tournament. It feels like it's been all about Haaland in the build up to this World Cup. But you've got to kind of factor in those behind him as well, like Martin Odegaard as well, who's obviously coming off the back of a title-winning season for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Odegaard, great player. He's suffered with his injuries a little bit over the last couple of years at Arsenal. I think that they were actually linking him with a move to Italy yesterday. I can't remember which team it was. Might have been Juventus or Roma, somebody like that. I can't see Arsenal letting him go because obviously he's the captain, but yeah, he was on Real Madrid's books, wasn't he, as a kid? Odegaard has been tipped for a bright future since he was a teenager, really, and just suffered with injuries over the last couple of years. But he will have that quality depending on where he plays. Sometimes he plays in the 10, sometimes he plays a little bit deeper in central midfield. Be interesting to see how he lines up for Norway. But yeah, they do have quality throughout. It's not all on Haaland. And as you say, Haaland, although he can be absolutely brilliant, you do see it with Man City. Sometimes if you manage to keep him quiet, because he's such a focal point, it can disrupt the whole team. So he does go through phases in games and throughout seasons where he might be on a little bit of a barren run. It'll be interesting. But like you said, on the flip side of that, as you said, rightly say, Chris, Iraq won't have come up against anybody like him before.
Well, I've just double-checked the squad as well, because it was like, who else will they have taken? I should have thought about it, really. But of course, they've got Jorgen Strand Larsen, obviously big physical striker from Crystal Palace. They've got the former Crystal Palace man who's now at Atletico Madrid as well, in Alexander Sorloth, who's had some excellent seasons in La Liga. But again, he fits that big physical presence mold. So it doesn't really matter if Haaland isn't necessarily the man that's doing it up front tonight. You take him out, you bring one of your others on, and you're still throwing an absolute handful and a half at an Iraqi defence that won't have seen the likes of it.
Yeah, the way they play is not going to change, is it, with those three?
No.
I mean, whether they play, I don't know if they play, presumably with the type of strikers they are, they play one up front, but if they'll play two up front, that's a nightmare for the centre halves. But either way, you take one out, you bring another one in, it ain't going to change how they play. Big physical presence, proper bully for the centre halves to deal with.
Yeah, it's a good squad, very good squad, that Norway side. Looking through it, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on against Iraq. Going into then the early hours of Wednesday morning for us here in the UK, Argentina versus Algeria and Austria versus Jordan, starting with the RG game at 2 a.m, Gaz.
Yeah, Argentina World Cup holders, obviously Messi and co. Some people tipping them to go deep again or to possibly win it again. I'm not so sure. I still fancy France or Spain. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's a 2 a.m. kickoff because it's nice to watch the holders, isn't it? And we don't get to see much of Argentina in this country as well. So I would have liked to have watched that game. Don't know anything about Algeria. Austria, I know they were tipped to do well in the last Euros under Ragelnick, is it? The lad that was the manager?
Ralf Rangnick.
Ralf Rangnick, yeah, he was at Man United, wasn't he, at the time, and went to Austria to manage them, and they were tipped to do well and didn't really fulfil the potential. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. And then Jordan, again, a team I know very little about. But if we're talking about the way that the games went, the Cape Verde game and the Curacao game, and them getting draws, then it makes you think that Jordan and Algeria will be looking at it in the same way, in the respect that if they can get a draw in the first game, they're still well in the group, mate.
Interesting you say it's always good to watch the holders. If Argentina were playing my back garden, I would close the curtains. Cannot stand the Argies.
See, that's interesting because I understand the feeling and obviously everything, the rivalry and everything, but I grew up just at the end of Maradona's career, and obviously, yeah, he was an absolute whatever for what happened in '86, but he's still probably the best player I've seen in my lifetime.
It's the reaction from was it '98?
Oh yeah, it was. No, 2000. And what do you mean? When Beckham got sent off in '98?
Yeah, when Beckham got sent off. Was that '98?
And then in 2002, apparently, when we beat them, they refused to shake hands, didn't they?
Oh well, that's them all over for what? Yeah, just and yeah, I've just never. I think I'm still clinging on to the reaction to the kick out, alleged kick out from Beckham in '98. It's still just nah. Shut the curtains. Shut the curtains.
Fair enough.
Come on, Algeria. Put it that way.
Don't get me wrong, Chris. I'd still like them to lose.
yeah. To be fair, the Argentina lost the first game of the last World Cup, and they went on to win the damn thing. So, to be fair, you look at tonight's fixture link all round, including these two from Group J, and I mean, I'll put the kibosh on it now, regardless. But you can't see it being the night of draws that we saw last night.
You wouldn't have thought so, but then, like you said, we thought about that with Spain, didn't we, against Cape Verde? So you just don't know. You would expect there to be goals. You would expect Austria and Argentina to win the game, but we've seen a couple of shocks so far. We'll find out in the morning when I watch the 8-minute highlights on the BBC, mate.
Yeah, that I'd like to try and stay up for one of those games, but I can't see it happening. Not with having to do the school run at like 7:30.
Yeah, it's just 2 and 2. It's just, I mean, I was talking to a mate yesterday, and he was saying like the 5 o'clock ones technically aren't too bad if you're willing to get up early, but the 2 a.m. and the 3 a.m. ones they're just not. They're just too much, even for the ardent fan, like you say, unless you've absolutely nothing to do the next day.
The problem is, like, I'll watch Iraq versus Norway, go to bed at 1. I don't want to then set my alarm for 5. Yeah. To wake up for the Austria game is the problem.
Yeah.
We will leave it there. Then we've done just over half an hour. We thought this would be a quick one compared to yesterday's. Hasn't been much quicker in the grand scheme of things. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be a little bit later tomorrow, 3:45 UK time. It'll be myself and Jason Booker is going to join me to go through these games from tonight and look ahead to tomorrow's games, which will. Wait, what day we're on now? Tuesday. That will feature England then. England in action tomorrow evening. Just before we go, your thoughts on the England game against Croatia tomorrow night?
Interesting one. Croatia probably not quite the team that they were in recent years, but still have quality throughout. I think a few of the top players have retired. I would like England to get off to a good start, as it always is important. But as you said, in the last World Cup, Argentina lost the first game and still managed to win the thing. So it's not the be-all and end-all. I think Croatia will be a tough test, but I still think even negative Gaz still thinks we can probably win that game. I'd just like to come in as well on Michael and Machina Joe talking about Maradona. I think Maradona versus Messi, I think it's a case of who you grow up with, because I was such a kid at the time, and you always look back on these players when you're a kid as being the best, and that's why Maradona's probably the best for me. It's the same. I saw someone say a few weeks ago that your first World Cup will always be your favourite. You'll always be chasing that feeling because it's like your childhood Christmases, and you'll always want that feeling again. And I feel that way about Italia 90. Maradona, still the best for me, but other people probably feel differently.
Yeah, see, it's mad though. That's your first World Cup, Italia 90, and you fast forward 12 years to the one that I first. And even then, it's only vague, real memories of getting up early or going to school early to watch the games for the Japan and Korea World Cup in 2002. That's my first.
Yeah, I mean, I was 7 in 1990, so I can I was like just getting into football. It was probably that tournament that sort of piqued my interest in it. I remember staying up for the semi-final, obviously, when England lost to Germany on pens. I remember watching that. I remember the Cameroon game and Roger Miller, David Platt's volley against Belgium. So, yeah, I have quite a lot of memories from that tournament. And I feel like that tournament as well was a sort of a turning point in the view of the game and how the game was received around the world as well, in the respect that it sort of was... it became a lot more globalized. It became a lot more commercial after that. And obviously it was thankfully the end, not the end of, but the hooliganism factor sort of diminished a lot around that time as well. So massive turning point. And Gaza and Maradona, two of my heroes. Well, Maradona, not a hero, but a great player from a kid, and two that I tried to emulate on the streets as a kid.
Absolutely. We'll end it on that then, mate. Thanks for coming on these last couple of days. We'll get you back on hopefully one day next week, maybe, as the tournament progresses. We'll leave it there, though. That's a big thank you to everyone that's got in touch on the comments, to Michael and to Joe for getting your comments in. Don't forget, if you're watching this later, leave us a comment. You can always subscribe to the channel as well, and you'll be updated of when we are going live. I'll be back tomorrow, say, with Jay around 3:45 UK time. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, whatever you get up to, and we'll see you soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Take care.